It is 8:15 on a Monday morning in the middle of summer. Down below, the streets of Hiroshima are full of people walking to work. Children are settling into their first period at school. It is an entirely ordinary day for the 350,000 civilians living in the city. High above them, a Singer object drops out of an American B-29 bomber. It falls for exactly 43 seconds. When it detonates, a blinding flash of light instantly erases 80,000 lives. The atomic bomb brought a sudden, violent end to the bloodiest conflict in human history. But to understand why the United States resorted to a weapon of this magnitude, we first have to look at the unsolvable strategic deadlock facing the Allies in the summer of 1945. By May of that year, Nazi Germany had surrendered. The war in Europe was over. But Imperial Japan refused to yield. The Japanese public was deeply conditioned to revere Emperor Hirohito as a living god, and their military operated on a rigid interpretation of Bushido, a code that treated surrender as the ultimate humiliation. This mindset produced a terrifying style of warfare. The military deployed thousands of kamikaze pilots to intentionally crash their planes into enemy warships. Back on the Japanese mainland, the government was arming men, women, and even children with sharp bamboo spears, preparing them to fight to the death. For the Americans, the Battle of Okinawa served as a bleak preview of what a ground invasion of the Japanese mainland would look like. This chart shows Okinawa's human cost: 12,000 American lives lost, and 100,000 Japanese civilians dead. When military planners scaled these rates for Operation Downfall's mainland invasion, intelligence projected over 1 million American casualties and millions of Japanese deaths. Allied leadership was trapped in a strategic nightmare. They needed a tactical variable powerful enough to break the Japanese military's fanaticism without committing to the deadliest invasion ever planned. That variable was sitting in the New Mexico desert. For 3 years, physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer had been leading the Manhattan Project, a deeply secretive $2 billion effort to build the world's first atomic bomb. Following a successful test detonation in July, the Allies had their ultimate weapon. They issued the Potsdam Declaration, offering Japan one final chance to surrender unconditionally, or face what they called prompt and utter destruction. Japan's military government rejected the ultimatum. They believed they could bleed the Americans enough on the beaches at Kaforth and negotiated conditional peace. That rejection removed the final diplomatic barrier. Seeking to shock Japan into submission and avoid a mainland invasion, President Harry Truman authorized the strike. The sheer physical reality of the little boy bomb dropped on Hiroshima is hard to comprehend. At ground zero, temperatures spiked to 4,000 degrees Celsius. Thousands of human beings were instantly vaporized, leaving nothing behind but their black shadows burned permanently into stone walls. On the ground, the aftermath was apocalyptic. 70 hours later, the United States dropped a second, even more powerful plutonium bomb called Fat Man on the city of Nagasaki. Nagasaki's hilly terrain absorbed some of the blast, limiting the radius of total destruction compared to the flat delta of Hiroshima. Still, 40,000 people were killed in a fraction of a second. The dual shock of a second nuclear strike and a massive Soviet invasion finally broke the political deadlock in Tokyo. Emperor Hirohito stepped in, overruled his divided military council, and announced Japan's unconditional surrender. The 2 atomic bombs killed over 200,000 people. 95% of the dead were civilians, common people, ordinary families, and children who had no say in the military's decisions. For the Hibakusha, the survivors, the horror continued for decades. They faced a terrifying invisible threat that doctors simply didn't understand yet: acute radiation sickness, which caused cancer and genetic damage long after the fires were put out. Look at this scale. It represents the historical debate that still rages today. On one side, the 200,000 actual civilian deaths. On the other, the million or more projected casualties of an invasion that never happened. Was the bomb a necessary tactical measure that ultimately saved lives, or an unjustified atrocity, especially considering the Soviet invasion might have forced a surrender anyway? The answer depends on where you stand. What remains undeniable is the outcome. The strikes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki solved a brutal strategic deadlock and ended the war. But in doing so, they left humanity with the technological capacity to erase itself from the earth.